Before I get into questions from the listeners and phone calls, I want to get into the gold market. But before we do that, Bob Chapman, specifically for those that don't understand, and again, this has even been on CNBC, but only here and there, these special computer trading programs that only Goldman Sachs and a few other of the big six banks have, they're black boxes that can siphon off billions every week, literally theft. They bring the suckers in. They're telling them, you know, get back into the market. Europe is plunging. This is all being done by design, but I agree with you. It's getting out of control in Iceland, in Greece, in Spain, in Portugal, in England. The people are saying, we're not doing this. The Americans are behind the curve in waking up, but they're starting to wake up. Explain to people again what the President's Open Market Committee is, what the Plunge Protection Team is, and the unbelievable power this gives the fractional reserve banking cartel. Not only can they create trillions of made-up assets for themselves and crap derivatives and certify them, but they also rig the market. Explain how big a deal that is and where gold should really be right now if they weren't in there trying to suppress it.
Well, first of all, the algorithms that are used are computer programs. And those programs are used in a combination with the computer in the New York Stock Exchange. And the closer you are to the NYSE computer, the more access and the quicker access that you have to the orders coming through, and they come through in nanoseconds. And so what these characters, like Goldman does, and there's 17 of them, so the 17 computers, one after the other, lined up, and you pay a certain fee to the stock exchange to go in there and front-run the orders is actually what they're doing. Of course, the SEC won't tell you that, and they won't stop it because it's a big profit center because they're stealing from other institutions as well as the public. And so they use these formulas, and they go into the computer because they get the information first, and then they either buy or sell in relation to the order that's coming through. And they don't make much money, a quarter of a penny, a half a penny, a penny. And at the end of the day, it's only $8 million. At the end of the week, it's $1 billion that they've stolen. And so that's what that's all about. And they continue to let it happen, just like derivatives. No control. I mean, the SEC might just as well not even be there.
Okay.
And the same thing with the CFTC.
And, of course, the CFTC, all these groups are almost completely commanded by J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and the other big four banks alumni, but Goldman Sachs is the key group. Now, you've worked at all levels of this, Bob. I know we don't know how they did it, but we know it was rigged, and even CNBC is saying that, and it wasn't a fat finger. But how, I mean, we know they rigged it through the Plunge Protection Team, but we don't know how, or maybe you do, how were they able, and we've confirmed this, to block out 90+% of traders and day traders and even people on the stock exchange? How did they lock it down? What was the mechanism for that 10, 15-minute period to just lock everybody out? And what is their mechanism to go in specifically? What's the instrument through the Plunge Protection Team? What happened yesterday? And if they can shave points off for themselves at the source of the river of money, then is this signaling a new level of insider trading and control when they just lock the whole stock market down for themselves?
Well, it is a new level, and I must admit I cannot describe how they've done that, and I just don't know. And I think the guy who could tell you is Max Kaiser, who has worked on those programs. And he would be the one to be able to describe that.
Yeah, let's get Kaiser on Sunday or Monday. Emergency call to Max Kaiser. Good point. Go ahead, Bob.
And so I can't answer the question because my knowledge only goes so far. And I don't know how they did it. And I don't even know who did it. I don't know whether it was government or it was Goldman or who it was.
Now, how does the Plunge Protection Team work?
They have people watching the markets. They have direction. It's just like the Fed and the Treasury tell. See, there used to be 21. There's now 19 brokerage houses that work with the Fed and the Treasury. And each morning they have a conference call, and they're told what to do in the market. Brokerage house A You go in and you make sure the price of gold goes down $3 today and silver goes down 15 cents today. Brokerage house number 2, you make sure that the Dow Jones Industrial Average is up at least 20 points today. Brokerage house number 3, we want you, because copper is leading the pack in the commodity market, we want you to knock it down 10 or 15 cents if you can. And they supply the money to do that. And that's going on in every market in the world. These people are all professionals, and so they're rigging all the markets.
And giving themselves an incredible unfair trade advantage.
Absolutely. I mean, it is a license to steal. People used to think that the specialists had a license to steal. I mean, this is phenomenal. And they're making hundreds of billions of dollars. They're draining all of the pension and profit-sharing plans. The people who are managing money at a tremendous disadvantage. And only 8% of the trades in the New York Stock Exchange now are individual trading accounts. The 73% are black box, these algorithms. And there's no liquidity in the market.
But as best you can tell, specifically, we know they started shutting down the European stock exchanges. Right before that, they were in free fall. And so to cover positions, the info you have, correct me if I'm wrong, is that big outfits dumped a bunch of stock. The contagion spread. In the 5 minutes they weren't watching, it dropped 1,000 points. The computers kicked in and drove it back up 1,000.
Well, I don't know about the computers kicking back in and taking it back up 1,000. I rather suspect the government was behind that when they started plunging. They probably went all out and bought the different derivative contracts to run it back up again. That's what
I meant. I meant the government computer system, because from what you and others have said, that's pretty much pre-programmed.
I think that is. And it goes far beyond that. But, you know, we can accept the fact that there should be some sort of method of keeping the market from plunging 1,000 points in a day. And a working group in financial markets, plunge protection team, could do something like that, but not what they're doing. They are raping, and that's not what this was designed for, and it's got to stop. The executive order has to be killed. In fact, I think there should be no executive orders.
All right, Bob.
Just like I don't think there should be lobbying or campaign contributions or Patriot Act 1 and 2 and the Fed Reserve, and I can go on and on.
All right, Bob Chapman's going to be with us 20 minutes in the next hour, so plenty of time for your Twitter questions and your live phone calls on air. Chris, Pastor, Al, Matt, Fred, many others that are joining us, and we'll recap Bob's intel on what really happened yesterday with that 1,000-point plunge and then it going right back up again. Let's talk to Chris in Rhode Island. You're on the air with Bob Chapman. Go ahead.
How are you guys doing today?
Pretty good. Go ahead.
Quick question. Is there any way that the general public can check put options on the Dow Jones that happened yesterday? Because we know the SEC doesn't really follow up on things like that, like we saw after 9/11.
That's a great question. We had record put options on airlines betting against them, just on American and United in the 4 days before 9/11, and that did come out in the German and British papers that it led back to Buzzy Krongard, executive director of the CIA. Bob Chapman.
Right, and that information is probably available, but I haven't been directly involved in the brokerage business for 20 years or more, and so I can't tell you how to get it.
But there are services out there that have it. The problem is it accurate information?
I would think it would be accurate.
So that's something
I won't identify who the sellers, who the buyers of the puts were, because that's house to house and then to a personal account of some kind. But it can show you the volume by house.
I wonder how the German papers found out it was Buzzy Krongard in 2001.
Probably by their intelligence operations, working with American Intel. Gave them the information. I would think that's how they got it.
Well, I'll say this, Chris. That's a great question. Why isn't the mainstream media? In fact, before we accuse them of it, let's Google it. Google, under Google News, which will do a news search, put options against the market. for market plunge or something like that. Let's find out. Anything else, Chris? He dropped off. Okay, Pastor in Ohio, you're on the air.
Yes, Bob. Bob, my question is this. Yesterday with that stock market doing what it was doing, well, then we've had this prediction made back, since the first year that something was going to happen on May the 6th anyway. Well, then on top of all that, I was listening to another man that was talking on the internet that's talking about the martial law false flag that they did yesterday, that they was waiting until after 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for them to let them know whether it was going to be a martial law action or a stand down. Do you see all of that coming to pass?
Let me just stop you and then get Bob's answer. I do remember people saying something was going to happen May 6th in martial law, and I just ignore that type of stuff usually. Bob, what's your take on that?